The quiet halls of Windsor Castle were shattered in a single, cold second, leaving the British monarchy facing an unprecedented internal earthquake. It did not happen at a high-profile state banquet or during a televised balcony appearance. It happened behind tightly closed doors, at a private family lunch where the royal mask completely slipped. 9-year-old Princess Charlotte sat surrounded by the most powerful figures in the realm, looked directly at Queen Camilla, and uttered a single, unforgettable sentence that froze the blood of everyone present. She refused to call Camilla grandmother, declaring before the entire table that family names must be earned, not simply handed out with a crown. No one laughed. No one reached for a drink to break the silence. The air in the room turned instantly to ice. In that agonizing breath, King Charles, Prince William, and Kate Middleton realized this was no childish outburst or temporary temper tantrum. Princess Charlotte had brought a quiet, calculated decision into that room, a secret she had been carrying for weeks after overhearing a cold, heartbreaking conversation in the palace corridors. What did Charlotte hear in those shadowed hallways? What devastating sentence did Camilla speak about the late Princess Diana that drove a 9-year-old child to defy the Queen of England to her face? Stay right where you are, because the shocking truth behind this royal confrontation is about to explode. To truly understand how a 9-year-old princess ended up standing her ground against the Queen Consort of the United Kingdom, we have to look back at the deep, unhealed wounds that have quietly festered behind palace walls for over 3 decades. For 22 years, the British public and the royal household itself have lived under the long, inescapable shadow of Princess Diana. When Diana tragically passed away in 1997, she left behind an everlasting legacy of warmth, compassion, and emotional vulnerability, qualities that endeared her to billions across the globe. But inside the cold, protocol-driven world of the monarchy, her memory remained a delicate, highly sensitive subject. When Charles and Camilla officially tied the knot in 2005, the palace machinery worked tirelessly day and night to rebrand Camilla's public image. Millions of pounds, endless public relations campaigns, and strategic media appearances were poured into transforming her from the most hated woman in Britain into a respected, maternal figure fit for a throne. For years, it seemed as though the plan had succeeded. The media softened its edge, the public grew accustomed to her presence, and by the time Charles was crowned king at Westminster Abbey, Camilla wore her crown alongside him. However, behind closed doors, no amount of public relations polish could ever truly erase history. Inside the private apartments of Kensington Palace and Windsor Castle, the legacy of Diana remained vibrantly alive. Prince William and Kate Middleton made a conscious, deliberate choice early in their marriage to ensure that their 3 children, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis, knew exactly who their late grandmother was. They did not treat Diana as a distant historical figure or a forbidden topic. Instead, they filled their home with her memory, sharing bedtime stories, looking through worn photo albums, and speaking open-heartedly about Grandmother Diana. Insiders close to the Prince and Princess of Wales report that William was fiercely protective of this tradition. Having lost his mother at such a young age under the glare of global media spotlight, he was determined that his own children would feel her presence, warmth, and enduring love. For Charlotte in particular, the connection to Diana grew exceptionally deep over the years. Staff members repeatedly noted how the young princess shared her grandmother's spirited personality, sharp intuition, and expressive eyes. Charlotte didn't just look up to the idea of Diana, she cherished her memory as a vital part of her own identity. But as the children grew older and Camilla's authority within the royal institution solidified following the passing of Queen Elizabeth II, a subtle, unspoken tension began to bubble beneath the surface. Camilla had spent 30 years being measured against a dead woman in every news profile, documentary, and anniversary special written about her. Every time Diana's name was mentioned in a room, it served as an uninvited reminder of the long, painful path Camilla took to reach the royal inner circle. According to high-level palace leaks, Camilla increasingly felt that the constant presence of Diana's memory inside the private family spaces was a direct challenge to her own position as the matriarch of the family. While she tolerated formal tributes, the intimate, everyday chatter about Grandmother Diana began to wear on her nerves. Senior aides reportedly noticed Camilla's subtle shifts in posture whenever the young royals brought up their late grandmother in casual conversation. The tension was a ticking time bomb waiting for a spark. The family attempted to maintain a polished, united front for the cameras, showcasing warm smiles and synchronized waves at official engagements. But the private dynamic between the royal households was becoming increasingly fractured. The staff could feel it. The security teams could sense it. Even the young royals began picking up on the heavy, unspoken atmospheric shifts whenever both worlds collided. The stage was set for an inevitable clash, a moment where the unyielding weight of royal protocol would crash headfirst into the fierce, untamed loyalty of a child defending her family's truth. And when that spark finally caught fire, it didn't just singe the edges of the monarchy, it threatened to burn down the carefully constructed peace of the entire royal estate. The simmering drama finally reached its boiling point during an unannounced, private family gathering at Windsor Castle. The table had been set for 7, a simple, unpretentious arrangement reserved strictly for moments when no outside guests or media photographers were expected. King Charles sat at his usual chair, with William, Kate, and their children settling into their places. Camilla was already seated, deliberately keeping the conversation light and superficial, steering topics toward the gardens, the weather, and family pets. Staff members later revealed that the atmosphere in the room was thick with a strange, unnatural stillness. Aides standing near the service doors read the seating plan with the same nervous tension usually reserved for high-stakes state dinners. Camilla was working visibly hard to keep the dialogue shallow enough that no one could stumble into sensitive emotional territory. For a brief time, the thin veneer of normalcy held intact. Then, midway through the meal, Camilla made a casual remark about her own generation, nonchalantly grouping herself among the children's grandparents. 9-year-old Princess Charlotte instantly stopped mid-motion. She carefully set her knife down onto her plate, a deliberate, precise movement that drew the immediate attention of several adults at the table. She looked straight across the white linen tablecloth, met Camilla's eyes, and spoke in a clear, unhurried voice that carried to every corner of the room. She stated plainly that she already knew who her grandmothers were, and that she would never call Camilla grandmother. The reaction was instantaneous shock. No one dropped a glass, no one laughed to cover the moment, and no one reached for a new subject. A suffocating silence fell over the room and hung in the air like a heavy weight. Every single adult present understood in that exact second that Charlotte had not lost her temper or thrown a child's tantrum. She had made a cold, calculated decision days earlier and had carried it quietly inside her until the moment presented itself. King Charles sat frozen, his fork halfway to his plate. A staff member who had started moving toward the table abruptly stopped dead in his tracks. Lowering his voice, Charles turned to his granddaughter and asked her why she had said such a thing. His tone carried the immense weight of both a grandfather and the reigning monarch. He expected an embarrassed, childish excuse, something small that could be quickly smoothed over before the plates were cleared away. Instead, Charlotte delivered a devastating blow. She looked her grandfather in the eye and said that family names have to be earned by the way a person makes you feel. She did not raise her voice. She did not look away. She spoke with the eerie composure of someone repeating a truth she had worked out entirely on her own. She then politely asked if she could be excused from the table. Kate Middleton gave a single, firm nod. Charlotte pushed her chair back, the loud scrape of the wooden legs against the floor echoing like thunder, and walked out of the room. Camilla sat motionless, her hands glued to either side of her plate, refusing to lift her eyes from the tablecloth. When young Prince Louis asked an innocent question a moment later, no one answered him. King Charles turned to Prince William, expecting his son to immediately discipline his daughter. But William didn't move. He didn't call Charlotte back. He simply watched his daughter walk through the door, his silent gaze signaling to everyone at the table exactly where her strength had come from. Leaks from palace staff quickly spread to private royal messaging circles, with frantic texts describing the lunch as a total nuclear meltdown of protocol. But the true horror of the situation was only just beginning to unfold, because the reason behind Charlotte's refusal was far more sinister than anyone at that table could have possibly imagined. As Kate Middleton quietly left the lunch table to follow her daughter down the long, cold Windsor corridor, the full scope of what had happened began to emerge. Charlotte was standing halfway down the hallway, surrounded by centuries-old royal portraits. It was there, away from the watchful eyes of the king and queen, that the 9-year-old revealed the secret she had been carrying alone for nearly a month. Weeks prior, during an informal gathering where the children were looking through old photograph albums with Prince William, Charlotte had paused at a picture of Princess Diana and softly spoken the words, "Grandmother Diana." Camilla, walking into the room at that precise moment, hesitated. Witnesses recalled that the pause went on a beat too long to be accidental. Camilla then turned to the young princess and coldly told her that she shouldn't get too attached to people she had never met when she had real family standing right in front of her. The statement had stunned the room into awkward silence at the time, but the true damage occurred minutes later. Charlotte had stepped out of the room, only to return moments later to retrieve a forgotten bracelet. Standing in the doorway unobserved, she overheard Camilla speaking privately to a royal senior aide. Camilla was overheard complaining that the constant, obsessive references to Diana were becoming confusing and problematic for the children, implying that steps needed to be taken to curb the memory of the late princess within the household. Oh, a 9-year-old child, the translation was brutally simple, remembering her beloved late grandmother was being treated as a fault, and Camilla was trying to erase Diana's place in their lives. Rather than exploding in anger or running to her parents, Charlotte kept the secret to herself for weeks. She attended school, went to church, and sat politely through multiple formal events alongside Camilla without uttering a single complaint. But in private, she reached a firm, unshakable conclusion: if accepting Camilla meant pushing Diana out, she would refuse to accept Camilla altogether. When Prince William learned the full story from Kate that evening, his reaction was explosive. He did not call for royal advisors, private secretaries, or PR managers. He bypassed all formal channels and demanded an immediate, private face-to-face meeting with Camilla the very next morning. When the two met behind locked doors, Camilla expected William to offer a formal apology on behalf of his daughter and help arrange a structured reconciliation. Instead, she found a furious father ready to draw an unyielding line in the sand. William stood towering behind a chair, refusing to sit down, while Camilla remained seated, looking up at him. He confronted her directly about the overheard conversation with the aide, stating flatly that intention does not erase impact. When Camilla attempted to defend herself, confessing through rising emotion that she had spent 20 years being measured against a ghost and felt there was no room left for her, William cut through her excuses. He informed her in no uncertain terms that a 9-year-old child was not keeping score in a 30-year-old adult rivalry. Then came the ultimatum that rocked the palace structure to its core. William declared that while Charlotte would always follow protocol and show total respect at public events, no one, not even the king, would ever instruct his daughter to perform fake affection or use a family name she did not mean. When Camilla angrily asked if that was merely his personal opinion or an official household rule, William delivered a devastating line: "Where my children are concerned, Catherine and I decide." The shockwaves of this confrontation instantly sent shockwaves through the royal communications network. Leaked reports from internal staff emails suggested that the palace press office was placed on high alert as rumors of a profound split between the households began circulating among top diplomatic journalists. The story was rapidly spilling out of the private quarters, threatening to expose the deepest rift the royal family had seen in decades. Within hours, news of the fierce standoff between Prince William and Queen Camilla reached King Charles. The king immediately summoned his son for an urgent, one-on-one conference in his private study. Charles knew the stakes were astronomically high. If word of this deep personal conflict leaked to the press, it would utterly destroy the image of a unified, modern monarchy he had worked so tirelessly to build since his coronation. The meeting was held in absolute secrecy. No private secretaries, no advisors, and no official notes were taken. Charles opened the conversation by framing Charlotte's behavior as a direct threat to the unity and stability of the royal family. But William stood his ground with absolute firmness. He calmly explained to his father that Charlotte would fulfill every single one of her constitutional and protocol-driven duties without fault. She would curtsy, she would walk in processions, and she would stand politely where commanded. However, the word grandmother belonged entirely to private affection, not state duty. William pointedly reminded the king that forcing a child to feign love to protect adult pride would send a toxic message that authority matters more than emotional truth. Charles sat in heavy silence for a long time. He was trapped in an agonized position, torn between his deep love and loyalty for his wife, who felt deeply humiliated, and his duty as a grandfather to a young girl who was simply protecting her mother's memory. Ultimately, Charles was forced to yield. He quietly conceded that he would not order Charlotte to use the term, effectively granting William's household full autonomy over the matter. Despite the king's attempt to contain the damage behind closed doors, the fallout was impossible to hide from palace staff. A few days later, during a private family tea at Windsor, Camilla made a dramatic tactical move that backfired spectacularly. Expecting Charlotte to be present, Camilla informed the king she saw no point in creating another uncomfortable encounter and chose to boycott the gathering entirely. However, in an extraordinary oversight, staff were not instructed to alter the table setup. For 2 full hours, 11 family members drank tea around a table where Camilla's place setting, complete with an inverted teacup and name card, remained completely empty. To the rest of the family, the empty chair did not look like dignified restraint, it looked like a petty emotional punishment aimed directly at a 9-year-old girl. Charlotte counted the places at the table, quietly asking Kate afterwards if the Queen was staying away because of her. Kate offered no softening excuses, reminding her daughter that adults are responsible for their own choices. Meanwhile, internet forums and royal commentary channels were beginning to catch wind that something major was unfolding behind the scenes. On X, formerly Twitter, trends like #RoyalRift, #WindsorDrama, and #Princess Charlotte began generating millions of impressions. Royal commentators posted speculative threads analyzing recent subtle shifts in body language between the Wales family and the king's inner circle. "Something massive has happened at Windsor," posted one prominent royal insider on X. Sources confirm a major protocol breach occurred during a private lunch. The press office is scrambling to keep a lid on it, but the tension between William and Camilla has reached an all-time high. TikTok exploded with viral edit videos comparing historical footage of Princess Diana with recent clips of Princess Charlotte, with creators claiming the young princess was carrying on her grandmother's fearless legacy. The public debate was firing up rapidly, dividing fans into opposing camps, those praising Charlotte for her unyielding authenticity, and those accusing the Wales household of damaging the traditional dignity of the crown. The digital ecosystem was officially in a state of absolute frenzy. As mainstream news outlets caught wind of the social media storm, major international broadcasts began running speculative segments on the rumored Cold War inside Windsor Castle. Royal analysts on major news panels debated the ethics of royal upbringing, with some commentators openly criticizing the palace for allowing internal family dynamics to spill into public awareness. "If these reports are true," stated a veteran royal correspondent during a live evening broadcast, "we are witnessing a profound generational shift." Princess Charlotte's refusal to conform to emotional performance highlights a massive fracture in how the young royals view authority versus personal integrity. Online polls conducted by major media outlets showed a staggering divide among the public. Over 70% of respondents in a nationwide survey backed Princess Charlotte and Prince William, agreeing that family titles should never be forced upon a child against their will. Message boards were flooded with thousands of passionate comments. "Charlotte is a true Diana. She sees right through the royal nonsense and stands up for what's real," wrote one user on a massive Reddit thread detailing the controversy. "Camilla has worked hard for 20 years for this family. To be publicly rejected at a family table by a 9-year-old is completely disrespectful," countered another user. Inside the palace, the panic was palpable. Senior PR executives held emergency meetings to discuss damage control strategies. A draft statement was even prepared by the palace press office, attempting to downplay the rumors as categorically false speculation regarding private family matters. But William instantly vetoed the release of any official statement, refusing to allow his daughter's private feelings to become the subject of an official press debate. Camilla surprisingly backed William's veto, admitting that hiding behind a sterile press release would only make the palace look weak and defensive. The tension escalated to an absolute fever pitch when the family was forced to make their first public appearance together following the incident. Outside Windsor, dozens of press cameras and news crews lined up along the courtyard, waiting eagerly for any subtle gesture, glance, or slip-up that would confirm the rumors of a rift. When the family emerged, all eyes were glued to Princess Charlotte and Queen Camilla. The photographers pre-focused their lenses on the space between them, desperate for a dramatic photo. As Charlotte stepped down from the stone pathway, she paused beside Camilla. The crowd held its breath. Instead of a warm, theatrical embrace for the cameras, Charlotte politely offered her hand. Camilla looked at the outstretched hand for a split second, then reached down and took it. The cameras went off in a deafening, continuous roar of shutters echoing across the courtyard. Within minutes, the image of the cold, formal handshake was splashed across every major news website across the globe. Newspaper front pages ran the photograph under massive, dramatic headlines, royal distance, and the cold handshake that shook Windsor. To the world watching from the outside, it appeared as a public rejection, a young princess refusing to show warmth to her step-grandmother in front of a global audience. But inside the inner circle of the royal family, that precise handshake represented something entirely different, a carefully negotiated, quiet boundary that both Charlotte and Camilla had secretly agreed to behind closed doors. For days before that public handshake ever took place, a secret, highly classified meeting had been arranged inside the quiet walls of Windsor Castle, a meeting that no press outlet knew about and no royal aides were permitted to attend. Prince William had insisted on one absolute condition: Charlotte and Camilla would be left completely alone in a room to speak face to face, away from the heavy machinery of the monarchy and without the king present to mediate. Charlotte walked into the room carrying a single item under her arm, the old photograph of Princess Diana from the family album. She set the picture face up on the table between them and laid her hand flat over it. Looking directly at Camilla, the 9-year-old spoke with terrifying clarity, stating that she believed Camilla wanted her to stop loving someone who was deeply important to her father. The stark simplicity of the child's words landed like an absolute sledgehammer. Camilla did not interrupt or offer defensive excuses. For the first time in 20 years, she looked at the situation without her own deep-seated fears getting in the way. She realized she had spent 2 decades reacting defensively to a child's natural curiosity, treating a 9-year-old girl's love for her late grandmother as a political attack in a competition that Charlotte had never even entered. Breaking her usual guarded exterior, Camilla offered a genuine, unscripted apology. She admitted plainly that she was wrong to tell Charlotte not to get attached to a memory, and wrong to express frustration to an aide. Crucially, Camilla did not ask for the word grandmother. She accepted that respect could exist without forced intimacy. Charlotte accepted the apology, establishing her own clear terms. She would address Camilla politely by her name in private, and use her official royal title at formal public events where protocol required it. There would be no fake emotional performances, no forced hugs for news cameras, and no pretense. When Charlotte turned at the door and asked Camilla if she would attend the upcoming family birthday gathering after all, Camilla nodded and said yes. The public cold handshake that sent the international media into a tailspin was actually the fulfillment of that private agreement, a respectful, dignified boundary between two people who had finally reached an understanding. But just when it seemed as though the intense royal crisis had finally settled into a quiet truce, a brand new, explosive revelation surfaced from deep within the palace archives that threatens to blow this entire story wide open once again. High-level internal leaks suggest that during the process of clearing out private historical files, a forgotten handwritten letter from Princess Diana herself was recently discovered in the royal vaults. The contents of this letter, written shortly before her tragic passing, reportedly contained specific, personal wishes regarding how her future grandchildren should be raised, and explicit mentions of Camilla's role in their lives. Was Charlotte's firm stand at the lunch table simply a child's natural intuition, or had she somehow learned about the contents of her grandmother's lost letter? Did someone inside Kensington Palace secretly share Diana's final wishes with the young princess before that fateful lunch? This story is far from over, and the true motives behind this unprecedented royal showdown are only just beginning to light up the headlines. The delicate peace inside Windsor Castle is hanging by a razor-thin thread, and the entire nation is waiting anxiously to see what happens next. Now, we want to hear directly from you. What do you think about Princess Charlotte's fierce stand against Queen Camilla? Was she completely right to protect her late grandmother's memory and refuse a forced title, or do you think a 9-year-old princess should have followed traditional royal protocol for the sake of family unity? How would you react if you were in Prince William's shoes? Sound off with your thoughts in the comments section below. We read every single comment and want to know where you stand in this massive debate. Don't forget to hit that like button if this shocking royal deep dive kept you on the edge of your seat, and make sure to click subscribe and turn on all notifications right now. We are currently tracking exclusive, incoming updates regarding the leaked Princess Diana vault letters, and you will not want to miss our emergency follow-up episode dropping very soon. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for the next explosive update.